Hey guys, welcome to this week's show. So at the weekend it was FA Cup fixtures, which meant that the Premier League has been midweek, which has been great for me considering I normally record the videos on a Wednesday. I'm going to rattle through the results relatively quickly because this week is a transfer special, so I'm going to be talking about the transfers from the summer and the ones that have happened in January. So we'll start at the Merseyside derby, where Liverpool got back to winning ways with a crushing 4-0 win over Everton. What will be more of a worry for Everton is the fact that they've lost Lukaku, and as well as Seamus Coleman, who was also out injured. That's a couple of big players for them, so it's going to be a tough few weeks ahead. Perhaps the biggest upset of the fixtures was Chelsea drawing 0-0 with West Ham. I know West Ham didn't win, but if you look at the statistics, I think Chelsea had about 75% possession and 39 shots and didn't manage to score a single goal. The final big result of the fixture saw Manchester City crush Tottenham 5-1. Manchester City were just dominant. Tottenham had a bit of an iffy red card, but in the grand scheme of things it probably didn't matter. Red cards were a pretty common theme amongst this week's fixtures. Matthew Flamini got one in the game between Arsenal and Southampton. That ended 2-2 and a pretty exciting game on the whole. A lovely back-heeled finish from Giroud to score the first. Elsewhere at the top of the table, Manchester United recorded a 2-0 victory over Cardiff. Saw the return of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but the big story was probably the debut for new signing Juan Mata. Mata had a solid debut, being voted man of the match by the fans, and Mata also managed to get an assist. Down at the foot of the table, Crystal Palace kept another clean sheet in a 1-0 victory at Hull. There was another red card here for Alan McGregor. Sunderland beat Stoke by the same scoreline, and as a matter of fact, there was a red card here as well. Swansea beat Fulham 2-0 to pile the pressure on René Mullenstein. At Carrow Road, Norwich and Newcastle drew 0-0 despite having tons of shots between them, and there was 2 red cards here as well. And finally, not that it really matters, being a mid-table clash, but Aston Villa beat West Brom 4-3. Although I was a little bit disappointed because there was no red cards in this one. So, as I mentioned earlier, this week's show is a transfer special, what with transfer deadline day being tomorrow. So I asked you guys for your best and worst signings of the season. So first we're going to look at the worst signings. So the first comment we had in was from Callum Scotland, who said that Andy Carroll was the worst signing of the season. He said his reason was the fact that it cost West Ham 15 million and it meant they haven't been able to bring in another striker. Look on the bright side, at least you didn't spend 35 million on him. The second comment from Tom Wardle mentions Yannick Sagbo. That might be a little bit cruel because I don't think any of Hull's strikers have been playing well. But yeah, he hasn't been great. And finally, Mike Renkirkham suggests Fellaini, Lamela and Soldado. Fellaini, as a Man United fan, I would certainly agree with. We could have got him cheaper, and then it just ended up looking like a panic buy. He hasn't fitted into the system, and I think we were quite pleased when he went out injured for a while, which is never a good feeling to have about a new signing. Lamela's young, he's got time on his side. I think he's struggled to adapt to the system. I definitely wouldn't call him the worst signing of the season, because I think over time he will get better. Soldado, it's a tough one because I defended him for a large portion of the season, but the fact he hasn't flourished under Tim Sherwood's system, which is a system he really should have flourished under, leads me to think that maybe he's not quite the player that I thought he was. For me, there are plenty of players who could go home with this accolade. I think there are plenty of strikers that were bought that really have not lived up to expectations. Andreas Cornelius at Cardiff, Darren Bent at Fulham, Ricky van Wolfswinkel at Norwich and Dani Osvaldo have all been extremely disappointing for me because I was expecting better things from them. Now for me, the 3 worst signings of the season, in no particular order, 2 have already been mentioned, Fellaini and Soldado, but the third one for me would be Iago Aspas. I really don't rate him at all. I think he's very weak, he's not a very good technical. I don't really see a future for him in the Premier League, and I'd be surprised if he gets that much more game time under Brendan Rodgers with the competition that he's got in the squad. So now we move on to the best signings of the season, and well, for you guys there was only one winner. Yes, you all thought Alvaro Negredo was the signing of the season, and quite frankly I would agree. He's just been sensational. In a strong front line, he's managed to hold down as a regular starting place. He's also formed a formidable partnership with Sergio Aguero and plays well with Edin Dzeko when they play together as well. He's been described as the next Alan Shearer. His nickname is The Beast. I really don't know what more you want from a summer signing, really. And it's also interesting that both him and Soldado came in on sort of a par for neutral fans of La Liga, and now there's clearly a definitive winner between the two of them. Out of all your comments, Mike Kirkham also suggests Lukaku, Remy and Ozil. I like Lukaku. I think he's a big, powerful player. who will score you goals, although he does have a tendency to drift in and out of games. Remy, I think, is a little bit of a form player. He will score a few in a row and then stop for a while and then score a few in a row again instead of consistently week in, week out, which is probably my major issue with him. Ozil is an exceptional player. He's come over here. I don't think he's playing at his best yet, and he's still getting assists, not scoring that many goals, but then he is primarily known as an assist maker. A couple of others to touch upon. I'm a big fan of Willian at Chelsea. I think he's really slotted into the system there alongside Oscar and Hazard, knocking Mata not only out the side but out of the club. Simon Mignolet as well at Liverpool. He's a great shot stopper. He's just a great all-round keeper really, and he's done a fine job for them, looking like he's going to help them push into Europe. Matthew Flamini at Arsenal, free transfer. He really has shored up that midfield. He's one of those players that doesn't necessarily get the plaudits because he does the dirty work, but he's been excellent. And just a final mention to Marouane Chamakh, purely because he's actually scored more than a goal. So what a fantastic signing he has been. So, what's been happening this January? Juan Mata is somehow at Manchester United. As a United fan, I was just waiting for Mourinho to pull the plug, but it has actually gone through. Unlike Fellaini, who we've already spoken about, he is a player that the fans can get behind and actually believe in, so I'm really impressed that Moyes has managed to land him. Mata's replacement at Chelsea was the much coveted Salah from Basel, who it looked like Liverpool were going to sign for much of the window. But no, he's going to go and warm the bench at Chelsea. Chelsea have also signed their old player, Nemanja Matic, who they sold for 3 million and brought back for 20 plus. So, good business there by Chelsea. Everton have signed Adi Magidi, and I'm quite interested to see how that one will turn out. I don't know a lot about him, but I've heard good things. Luke de Jong going to Newcastle is certainly one to keep an eye on, especially with Remy suspended. There's a strong chance he may play in the next fixture. Hull have also signed 2 extremely prolific goal scorers in Nikica Jelavic and Shane Long. So that is the end of this week's show, guys. Next week will be the first European show, so we'll be doing what we did with the Premier League show and having a roundup of the season so far in the other 4 big leagues, and probably the Cypriot First Division as well. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, then why not subscribe? I'd love to hear your comments below, and until next week.